talk about getting a scouting report. One of the things that we really want to do on the program is try to hear from somebody in the media who covers the Browns' opponent that week. And Brooke Pryor is the ESPN Steelers reporter, and Brooke joins us now on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Brooke, thanks so much for joining us. It's easy to dismiss an opponent when you're looking at matchups and all of that. But I say about this game, it is a rivalry, and you know the cliche, throw the records out the window. They both want this one just as badly as the other. How is this Steelers team internally? Because it almost looks from the outside looking in that they could be a little bit wounded, like this Browns team. They had some miscommunication. They haven't played well. They've had a little bit of conflict and turmoil already internally. Where are they as they get ready to come to Cleveland tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that this locker room's in a really interesting place. I mean, even after the loss last week, there was frustration on both sides of the ball, which was a totally different locker room than we saw after they beat the Bengals, when I think there was a lot of relief. But, I mean, the defense felt great about how they played in that game. But at the same time, TJ Watt was injured. And so it's been kind of maybe unsettling is the right word for this team, and how they're feeling in the locker room. To me, it's interesting because I felt like I had been transported back to 2021 when we were talking with Mitch Trubisky yesterday. The questions that were being asked, hey, can you guys, can you go up tempo in your offense earlier? Do you have the power to audible? Do you think that going up tempo would help? Because when you guys were at the end of the third quarter, you mixed in some tempo offense, and that seemed to help. These are all the same questions that we were asking Ben Roethlisberger and Matt Canada a year ago. And so to me, that points to there's some issues with the play calling. Talking with players this week, they're all saying, they're saying this is not on Mitch. There are some other things that have to happen to get this offense going.
Brooke, I hate to do woulda, shoulda, coulda, but I'm going to do it. If the Bengals long snapper doesn't get hurt, the Steelers are 0-2. Fair? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't get hurt.
Yes, yeah.
The Bengals win that game, and the Steelers are 0-2. One thing that I think, maybe the Steelers' offensive line will eventually be better, but I think we're also seeing this in Cincinnati. You may add more talent. The Bengals added veteran talent on the offensive line, the Steelers' younger talent. But the offensive line, more than any other position, takes time to gel, right? You got new faces. Bengals have 4 new starters. Steelers have some new starters, too. That's maybe they'll get better, but right now their offensive line is a mess. And
although it's funny,
right?
At the same time, though, their offensive line is a mess, but they're playing better than they looked in the preseason.
Okay.
To me, that's significant. Mitch Trubisky only has a handful of sacks at this point.
Right. So so then you talk about the miscommunication. Is it on the coach? Is it Trubisky not good enough? Is the game plan too conservative? Is Najee Harris overrated? Why did everybody draft, what's his name, the wide receiver? I can't think of anybody's name.
Deontay Johnson?
No, Pickens.
George
Why did
Pickens?
everybody draft Pickens in fantasy leagues when he hasn't done anything? What do you make of it all? I gave you 8 questions.
Hey, it's me.
You want to answer?
Let me see if I can work my way through that.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'll say I'm one of those people who drafted George Pickens in my fantasy league,
So
and he is at the very bottom of my bench. I think, unfortunately, I really wish that I could tell you I found a diamond in the rough, and right now the Steelers are making me feel pretty dumb on that one. I get the sense that this is a play calling issue. But both the offensive coordinator, the offensive game plan, and Mitch Trubisky have to be more aggressive. George Pickens said this week that he felt like he was running free down the field 90% of the time. I don't think it was quite that much. But there were more opportunities that were out there. Trubisky has just got to look down the field more, but at the same time, I think the offensive plan has to have him throwing the ball down the field more, because I feel like we're seeing what we saw last year with a lot of throws short of the sticks, especially on third down. Is there anything that's more maddening than that? No. And I just get the sense that he says that he's not worried about his job, but I think that has to be in the back of his mind somewhat when, you have another third down that's short and the crowd at Acrisure starts chanting Kenny. I mean, he can't escape it. And so I think that maybe it's more reassurances from the coaching staff, or he needs to trust himself more, but he's got to let it loose if this offense is going to get going. But he also said post-game, how do you open up downfield passing? call concepts to get receivers there, and then when coverage dictates it, get the ball to those receivers. That's the recipe. That's what they have to do, but, easier said than done.
Brooke, you read my mind. It's exactly where I was going. How long is the leash on Mitch Trubisky?
I think that this is going to be a really important game for him. I thought it would be a little bit longer than this. I don't think that this is all on him. But if the Steelers did want to make a change, if they felt like that at some point this season they were going to hand the reins over to Kenny Pickett, they do have a mini bye coming up after this Thursday night game if the offense can't get back on track. And look, that's a tall order because there's not much time to change the offensive strategy on a short week. I still think this comes down to more play calling, but there's not another offensive coordinator waiting in the wings. There is another quarterback. I think that possibility becomes more realistic if Mitch comes out and doesn't have a good game.
I said Kenny Pickett would be the starter well before the bye week. Fair or false? True or false? Fair or false?
Fair or false? That's a new one. I haven't played that game.
Coming to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show next week. Fair or false?
We're cutting edge here, Brooke. We're cutting edge.
You guys are teaching me so many things.
Yeah.
I'm going to go – if you had asked me before the season, I would say false. At this point, I feel like it's fair, just given the trajectory of how things have gone.
So not
I hate
true,
to say
but
it because,
fair.
I like that she played.
But fair.
But not
Exactly.
false.
I'm going to play your games. I might
Yes, you made the game there.
All right.
You're a great guest. I can tell you that. We're playing along. There it is. There's our true or false graphic. Hey, Brooke, what's funny to me is as you look at the Steelers historically, and particularly with Tomlin at the helm, they don't know what it's like to be under 500. They just don't. They haven't lived there at the end of any season under Mike Tomlin, and I'm sure that there may be a point in time, particularly early in the season, where they've been there. But we talked earlier on the show. This is not an organization that pushes the panic button. They traditionally stay the course and they figure it out. All of that being said, everybody loves the backup quarterback. He's the most popular guy in town. What you've seen of him through camp, through the preseason, is he going to be any better with that same offensive line in your view?
You know what? I think that he would be maybe just as good with that offensive line. I think he could be better. To me, the intangible here is the spark, because a team is going to be energized by a quarterback change, especially when it's the rookie first-round pick coming in, the homegrown guy. The fans are going to be more excited about it. I think that there would be a different tone and an energy, and it would be – I feel like right now the Steelers team is on the defensive, trying to, defend Mitch and defend what's going on. I think you put Kenny in there and everything changes and they become more aggressive naturally. But I think that the Steelers, though, do need to do something with this offensive line to use Mitch Trubisky's mobility, because that's a trait that he has. That's something that Mike Tomlin said for a while that he wanted in a quarterback. Kenny Pickett has the same thing. I think he has even more than what Mitch Trubisky has. So, yeah, maybe he fares a little bit better with this offensive line. But, look, the reality is this offensive line has not been that bad in pass pro. The run game is where it's been an issue, and that seems like they're just not on the same page with Najee Harris. I've watched, some film back where Najee is just missing holes and he is running to contact, and it's puzzling because that is not how he plays. I don't know if it's a health thing for him or what, but to me, this offensive line has outperformed expectations. That does not mean they're good by any means. It just means that I had really, really low expectations after the preseason.
So they're jumping over a low bar. Yeah, and there was somebody before the season started that had Najee Harris rated higher than Nick Chubb.
Which was idiotic.
Listen,
And we killed him. Yeah, I know.
Brooke, you just told me that I need
Couldn't be me.
You told me that
It's not you, Brooke.
You literally just told me to trade Najee Harris while he still got some value. That's what you just told me on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
I'm not going to straight up tell you that, but I will tell you that in my fantasy drafts when he was available, I did not pick him. And I like drafting guys that I cover because I'm naturally going to pay attention
Where
to
was
them.
you
But
at 3 weeks ago? Come on.
Yeah.
All right,
but I can tell you to trade him. So there's that. Maybe the guys in your league aren't watching this right now.
Yeah.
They might.
Well, they are. They are.
They might.
He's sitting right next to you.
Unfortunately, then I got nothing.
I don't have him in that league.
Brad's not here. Trade him to Brad. He'll buy him.
With the connection that Jacoby Brissett and Amari Cooper had last game, what do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers plan to slow them down? Because Amari Cooper is one of those guys that once he gets rolling, it's hard to stop.
I thought it was interesting that Mike Tomlin said that Amari Cooper is playing well, but he's doing the same kind of things that they were asking Landry to do, that they were asking OBJ to do. So he's familiar with these concepts, even if they haven't played Amari Cooper himself very often. But I mean, I'm looking at a guy like Minka Fitzpatrick just to see what he can do. They move him all over the field. He has 2 picks in 2 weeks. He had the pick 6 on the second defensive play of the season in Cincinnati. So I'm looking at him. I like what the corners have done so far. They don't have a guy like Joe Hayden, who, I mean, as you guys I'm sure have seen, retired this morning as a Brown. As someone who just covered him in Pittsburgh, I was mildly surprised, but then I was also like, oh yeah, he was in Cleveland much longer than he was in Pittsburgh. But yeah, I think that's going to be something that they're going to have to stop. But to me, if I'm the Steelers, I am less concerned about Jacoby Brissett connecting with Amari Cooper, and much more worried about those running backs, especially the way that the Patriots moved the ball in the fourth quarter and ran out the clock. That I felt, again, like I was in that time transporter that time machine back to 2021, and we're seeing run game issues all over again.
Brooke, last thing. In that first game against Cincinnati, T.J. Watt, the defense played well. Burrow had a bad game, turned the ball. But T.J. Watt was wreaking havoc that whole game. I mean, he was killing Burrow. He was making every play. Something we haven't seen enough from Myles Garrett. But anyway, we saw from him. They lose him. The defense wasn't tested all that much. Patriots offense isn't very good. The Browns are a one-dimensional offense with the running game, which is great, but their passing game, again, next week, the Jets played well, but the Jets aren't great. They're playing much better offenses after that. How big, once they start playing consistently better offensive teams, and even this week against the Browns in the great running game, how concerned are you about the drop-off of their defense overall with the loss of Watt?
Yeah, I'm pretty concerned if I'm the Steelers, looking at, they didn't record a single sack last week. And they weren't playing like world's best offensive line. They just weren't able to get pressure. It felt like they were maybe an inch or two away from getting to the quarterback. Malik Reed played well. I thought Alex Highsmith played okay. Cam Hayward played really well. But still, I think that they're missing that extra energy, that guy that, you can't double team, or you have to double team. So maybe you leave Alex Highsmith open. I just think that it's a lot harder for this team to generate pressure without, it feels ridiculous to say out loud because it's like a no-dust statement, but at the same time, it's a lot harder for this team to generate pressure without the reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year on the field. I think they're going to have to rely on doing some creative things, bringing up Arthur Millette to blitz more often, things like that, even though the Steelers said, hey, we're not going to reinvent the wheel without T.J. Watt. I kind of feel like they have to, because what they were doing last week didn't work. So they've got to figure out something, because they can't go 5 more weeks without a sack. They're not going to win a game.
Nope. All right, should be exciting Thursday night. Thanks, Brooke. We appreciate the time.
Yeah, Brooke, excellent job. We enjoyed it. You were super good, and we'll hopefully we'll talk before their second meeting later this season.
Next time we'll play True or Unfair.
No, I'll be ready.
All right, Brooke, thanks.
Brooke.
Great sport.